Hydraulic fracturing, more commonly known as fracking, has become a very common way of extracting oil and natural gas from deposits of oil shale, a geological formation containing fossil fuels that are inaccessible using traditional drilling methods. In northern Colorado, the vast majority of fossil fuels are locked inside this oil shale, making fracking the lifeblood of the fossil fuels industry in this part of the state. Fracking works by way of hydraulic pressure. When a deposit of oil shale is determined to be worth harvesting, a drill rig, much like the one depicted here, is installed. Through the subterranean piping system, called the wellbore, a slurry of chemicals is injected at high pressure into the oil shale deposit. The resulting hydraulic force that the pressurized slurry exerts on the porous and brittle oil shale cracks the rock, collapsing the pores where the oil or natural gas resides, creating what is essentially a pool of free-flowing oil or natural gas, which then can be piped out of the ground and filtered to remove any pieces of shale still suspended in it. The aforementioned chemical slurry is a gray, oily fluid that is traditionally composed of about 90% water and 9.5% sand. The remaining half of a percent is composed of 10 or more chemicals depending on the exact brand of slurry used. While some of these chemicals, such as sodium chloride, also known as table salt, are entirely safe for most organisms, some are most definitely not. One example is naphthalene, a chemical used as a surfactant in most slurries. This chemical, also found in mothballs, causes irritation of the respiratory tract, stomach issues, can cause fever, and even death. Other hazardous chemicals are present in worrisome quantities, such as formaldehyde, an ounce of which can cause death, and lead, which has been linked to permanent cognitive impairment in humans. And some of the chemicals used are deemed trade secret by the companies that manufacture the slurry. The health effects of these can only be speculated upon as their chemical makeups are unknown to the public. With these troubling facts, it's fairly easy to understand why so many residents of northern Colorado are widely against fracking practices. Especially when flooding, other irregularities in weather and climate, and slurry spills on the surface can cause these chemicals to leak into drinking water. As you've seen, many of these chemicals are hazardous upon contact with humans, and actually consuming these chemicals raises the danger tenfold. Fracking can even cause fossil fuels to leak into people's private water supplies directly. Aside from the health risks that this poses, being able to light your tap water on fire, like this resident of Weld County, is inarguably grounds for being against fracking operations, and understandably too. So how could so many people possibly support such a potentially dangerous activity? Well, in addition to providing the country with fossil fuels that did not come from the Middle East, and thereby helping to sever our dependence on countries like Saudi Arabia, fracking operations provide numerous jobs here in northern Colorado. As more has come to light about the hazards of fracking, public opposition of fracking has increased at an incredible pace. Ecological conservationists can rejoice, but the sentiment is not shared by those who are employed with the fracking industry, many of whom have lost their jobs due to the banning of fracking in places like the northern Colorado city of Longmont. These bans, coupled with a steep drop in the market value of fossil fuels, have hit those reliant on the industry in no small way. It's a fair assumption that if one cannot make ends meet, worry for the environment falls by the wayside. People need to be able to survive, and if fracking is one's trade, taking that vital source of income away from him or her is a good way to spawn protest from those who actually need fracking's revenue. So how can we preserve these Coloradoans' ability to earn money from fracking while equally catering to those who advocate for personal health and the environment? After all, if people's drinking water is being poisoned by hazardous chemicals, no amount of money earned from fracking will change the fact that for some, fracking as it currently is done means even one's tap water is undrinkable. That is indeed something that cannot stand. Luckily, there is a way to continue fracking while reducing or virtually eliminating the health risks associated with the current methodology. Enter CleanStem, an entirely organic fracking slurry developed by the energy conglomerate Halliburton Incorporated. This slurry, and others like it, contain only ingredients approved for use by the food industry. This means that all of the harsh chemicals associated with fracking using traditional slurries are not of concern when a substance like CleanStem is used instead. This non-toxic compound does not entirely eliminate the environmental impacts of fracking, such as the amount of fresh water needed, but it does eliminate any health concerns associated with fracking. So why then isn't the non-toxic CleanStem slurry being used in every fracking operation? As corporate situations too often do, it comes down to money. CleanStem costs slightly more than the more common toxic slurries on the market today. Unfortunately, most fracking companies will not be able to provide fossil fuels at their current prices while using more expensive organic slurries simultaneously. As consumers, we will have to pay slightly more for our fossil fuels in order to ensure that they were harvested in an ecologically friendly manner. But you may be asking why you should be responsible for paying for safely harvested fossil fuels. The answer is in the community. By paying more for your oil and natural gas initially, you will allow drilling companies to utilize the more expensive organic slurries. These eco-friendly drilling operations will be able to work their way back into communities like Longmont, who have banned fracking due to concerns over its toxicity. As eco-friendly slurries become the industry standard, more drilling will be able to take place in areas where the environmental effects would have been too great using traditional slurries. This will lower the overall price of fossil fuels after some time because more drilling equals higher production, leading to cheaper fossil fuels for northern Colorado. While it may be more expensive for the consumer initially, it could actually be cheaper in the long run. As we've come to see, organic fracking fluid is the means for bringing a divided public together on the issue. Those who advocate for the environment can give eco-friendly fracking their blessing, while those who require fracking's presence for income can rest assured that eco-friendly fracking can continue to have a home in northern Colorado. With everyone on the same team, we can finally move forward in a way that's better for everyone. So what does the future hold? While we can only hope that fossil fuels will eventually be rendered obsolete compared to renewable energy sources, currently they are the lifeblood of the energy industry. But with the support of folks like you, the fracking industry can continue providing the fossil fuels, jobs, and valuable economic infrastructure that northern Colorado so desperately needs, without sacrificing the beautiful environment that makes it one of the most breathtaking places in the world, not to mention having some of the cleanest drinking water around. Many fracking companies are making the switch to non-toxic slurries, so when purchasing fossil fuels, ensure that you are purchasing from these sources. With your help, we can set a new standard for the fracking industry, a standard that is both profitable and that won't harm the environment. The future is bright.